but go around the room and tell me one thing that no one else in this room knows about you. And that's sort of the icebreaker. I hate that term. And they sort of don't want to do it, but it's a simple truth of relationships. When I know a little bit more about you as a human being, it's easier for me to trust you. It may not be all I need, but it's a start. So how do you facilitate these conversations? How do you get senior people and junior people together? Two of my favorite facilitators are wine and cheese. Okay, if you need to bribe people with food or liquor, feel free, but use that to get them in the same room and get them talking to each other. It's not all you need to do to build trust, but it's something, so get started. So conversations is one way to build trust. The other way is experiments. This actually relates to what I was talking about yesterday in terms of changing the culture towards decentralization. If you want to do that, you have to have give people the authority to make decisions where they don't do it. So you create containers. You do little experiments. It just makes it easier to risk. If I know it's an experiment, I'll take a risk on it. If there's no controls on it, then I'm a little more nervous. And trust is ultimately all about risk. There is no trust without risk. You have to take a risk if you're trusting me. You have to expose yourself to make yourself vulnerable in some way and give that sort of power to me to take advantage of it. Otherwise, it's not trust. So senior people have to give these junior people they have to expose themselves, not literally, I hope. They have to give them a chance to screw up. So put some containers around it, put some boundaries around it, show that you're learning from it. It's like, yeah, I know you don't trust these younger people to represent the organization, so maybe in this particular area, let's let them do it there. And then we'll look at it after a few months, and we'll see how it's going, and we'll evaluate it, and then we'll make another decision. People can get into that. That's enough risk. That's not too much risk for them. So look for ways, if you want to build trust, to find places where you can experiment and measure and feed it back in and learn. Someone asked yesterday, is marketing a good department to work on becoming a more human organization? I think around the experimentation it is. All the sessions I've been listening to today, and yesterday for that matter, you guys love experimentation, right? You're constantly about measuring and looking at this. Now, it's a little harder when it's on internal stuff. It's a little harder when it's on interpersonal, on issues of trust or openness. It's harder to measure, but you can still do it. You can still have conversations about it. Did this work? Why or why not? I can't measure it in terms of percent ROI, I'm afraid, at least not yet. But I can still have a conversation of, I liked it for this reason, I didn't like it for that reason. It's subjective, but it's still measurement. So you apply that internally, apply that to our management, apply that to how we run things, and build in these experiments so that you can build trust. So obviously this one connects to these kinds of efforts, which will help enable better social media if you build that trust. Connect to the trustworthy piece. They connected the behavior level around authenticity. In trustworthy organizations, people can be themselves. And one reason people aren't themselves, I think, in organizations is because we're afraid that someone's going to judge me badly, and it's mostly because we don't have conversations with those people. We make it up in our head that they're going to judge us. So when you start having those conversations, it makes it easier for people to be authentic. But this one also connects to the generative piece at the culture level around inclusion. One of the reasons I want to build trust between the senior level and the junior level in an organization is because I need to make it okay in the organization in general with there being difference. Okay, inclusion is about valuing difference. And the reason you need difference in order to be generative is that you don't have innovation unless you have diversity. Okay, you need cognitive diversity in order to come up with really new, brilliant, awesome ideas. If everyone thinks the same way, you usually get incremental boosts at most, if not nothing. I mean, literally, if everyone thinks the same way, then you all agree and nothing ever changes. Okay, you need diversity. But we're not good at that in organizations. We tend to hang around people like us. There's a comment I made yesterday about being in the marketing bubble. It's comforting to be with your marketing people and talk to your marketing people all the time. But if you want innovation, you got to bring in some new voices. The same is true in organizations. That senior level, if you want innovation, you got to have some people who don't have experience in the conversation with you. You gotta have people who don't know what you know. And we usually say, well, you don't know what I know, so I can't talk to you. No, you don't know what I know, so I want to learn more from that. All right? So we need to be able to build that, make it normal to have junior people and senior people working together on the same thing, right? And then this one, though, particularly connects to courageous, which I think is one of the hardest of the 4 elements. And it's about learning and experimentation. Learning is at the culture level. We need cultures that value learning, that are constantly taking what we've done and applying it in a way what we're going to do. You guys do that in marketing all the time. We don't do that in management. We don't do that in the way we run things. But we could. So build capacity for experimentation. Maybe it's just to build trust in this one moment, but you're also modeling the way that you can be experimenting in all this stuff and measuring it even in subjective ways, but learning from it. Because this is how this connects to courage. If I know that my system is learning from what it's doing, I'm going to let it do more. If I don't get the sense that we're learning from it, then I'm not going to let you do anything. I'm going to do it all myself. Because at least I know what I'm doing. But if you guys aren't learning from it, then no, I'm not going to let you do anything. So we need a culture where we're constantly saying, what did we learn from that? And it's very visible and it's happening all the time. That helps us be more courageous. That helps us take more risks. Right? So each piece, as you guys are going and doing social media work, as you're solving these problems, getting over these hurdles that you're facing, each one connects to becoming a human organization in a different way. It's usually just a few places where it's plugging in to this model where you can say, oh yeah, I got to remember, we got to work on inclusion, so let's make sure we make that explicit as we're solving this social media problem. And you keep plugging away at doing this. Obviously, there's lots of places to connect. This is the whole model. I think actually you'll go blind if you stare at this model for too long. These are each human element. There's the culture, process, and behavior piece. Okay? So you don't have to do it all at once. But I know that in your work, there are things you can do, like the examples I just gave, that connect to these things. So you also have learned a little bit about me, which is that I'm over time. No, we still have more time? Okay. That I'm going to make you talk about this. So we only have 1 minute, but this is where you talk to your neighbor. If you weren't here yesterday, sorry, this is what happens in my presentations. You guys, in 1 minute, brainstorm with each other about work you're currently doing and how you could connect it to one of these areas. How you could literally connect it to one of those areas. You don't have to have all the answers, but give each other a couple of things. Write them down. Tweet them later, or put them in a blog post, because I want to see what I want you to share with the whole community what you came up with, because there are ways to connect it. So 2 minutes, go.